Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rewilding Wellness Wednesdays. I am Dr. Christy Vanacore. I'm thrilled to have you here with me watching this on the replay. If you're new to me, welcome to my community. I am thrilled to be able to offer you these interestingly unique podcasts. So if you're new to this, then you don't know that these podcasts are really unique opportunities to not only just consume information, but they're opportunities for you to join live and be a part of a community, ask your questions, listen, learn, contribute, grow, and for all of us to evolve together. If you're watching on the replay, no problem. You're going to get a lot of good information out of it. But my goal is to have as many people join live week after week so that we can create a really safe place for all of us to come together to talk about all things related to health and wellness. Tonight's topic is a parenting topic. This is all about how to open the door to have those really challenging and hard conversations with our children and teens. One of the things that you'll hear me mention is that it is so important that our kids feel that they have a safe space in order to even have these conversations. So interestingly enough, I'm creating these communities to create almost a parallel process, to create these safe spaces for us as parents to have these conversations so that we can in turn feel safe and supported enough to offer the same for our children. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to say a couple of words about who I am. I am a multidimensional wellness practitioner, holistic psychologist, author, mom of two teenage boys, and I've been doing this work for almost 3 decades. And my entire mission is one of rewilding wellness. This is where we return to our roots, we rekindle our instinctual wisdom so that we can reclaim our sovereignty. With respect to parenting, when we talk about kind of parenting the wild way and rewilding parenthood, what this is all about, it's not about perfection, okay? We're not trying to emulate the Pinterest parents that do it all, okay? It's not about that. It's coming back to the essence of who we are as the parents, as the roots, as the foundation, and drawing on the ancient wisdom that it takes to be healthy and well. Everything from understanding the energetic roots of our physical bodies to understanding the significance of things like community and ceremony and prayer and ritual and connection. All of these things make a child. All of these things contribute to the well-being of the family. Sorry, my phone was going off. Okay, so that's a big part of what Rewilding Wellness is all about. These podcasts, these are short snippets of information designed to kind of get the conversation started, designed to get you thinking about things in a different way. These are paradigm shifts, okay? So as you'll hear me say several times throughout and even at the end, if you have any questions, reach out to me, okay? I love to have conversations. I'd love to connect. I also have wellness guides that are available that are, a bit more comprehensive guides that you can take and really put into place in your home as action plans. So there's also opportunities to schedule one-on-one sessions with me, also opportunities for day retreats, wellness retreats, all kinds of things. I am available for your rewilding wellness journey. So do get in touch with me. Let's dive into tonight's topic, okay? It's a big one. And again, this is meant to be a snippet of information, okay? So why is this topic even important? Why are we talking about having these hard conversations with kids? Well, you've got to be living under a rock to not understand that the health crisis that our kids are experiencing, okay, with rates of anxiety, depression, rates of suicide, rates of chronic disease and chronic illness are skyrocketing in our children and teens, okay? And, this is, when I say this, and I have some parents when we do this live say to me, well, yeah, but Dr. Christy, we always had stressors. Life was always hard. It was never easy. And you know what? That is true. That is true. Every generation has its crosses to bear, okay? But the reality is that the noisy world that we're living in now, this hyperkinetic, this chaos, this endless movement, rapid noise, this is new. This is unprecedented, right? We didn't have TikTok and, social media and all these things years ago. We didn't have that to contend with. So yeah, we always had our crosses to bear, but what our kids are experiencing now is really magnified and on such a different level in light of some of the experiences of the world that they're living in. So we have to take that into consideration, okay? So, when we talk about what kids are experiencing, right, we understand, look, they're getting academic pressure. There's so much going on. There's a couple of other factors that I want to mention really quickly to just keep in mind, okay? So the first is that right now, because of this pressure cooker world that we're living in, all of our children and teens are really being pressured to be what we call high performance. Okay. High performance is all about, every athlete is told they have to be elite, right? Dancers, sports players, musicians are all taught that in order to make an impact and in order to be seen, they have to be elite. Anything less than elite is useless. Okay, that's the messaging. Okay, it may not be you giving this messaging to your kid. This is the messaging that they're getting in the world. Okay, and they're absorbing those messages, whether they realize it or not, they're absorbing. Okay, so these high performance, high stakes, it's leading to things like burnout. Okay, for those physically inclined, like our athletes and dancers, swimmers, all of that, this is leading to a lot of physical injuries in kids. Okay, I have 4 clients right now who are going through preseason football, and they all have concussion and post-concussion syndrome. 4. Okay, and the season hasn't even started yet. So we're seeing all of these injuries, repetitive injuries. We're seeing a lot of performance anxiety like never before because we're telling our kids that the stakes are really high. Okay, we're seeing pressure. Again, it may not be from you. It may also be from you in a way that's unintentional. We've learned these sort of really borderline ways of trying to encourage our kids and empower our kids. And sometimes we end up feeding into it. And part of that is because the same noise that our kids are hearing, we're hearing too. Right. So I have so many friends. And look, for those of you who don't know me, I have 2 boys who play competitive hockey. And the narrative around we've got to get scholarships, right? They've got to be on the top AAA team. Like, this is real. This is the chatter around us all the time. So as parents, we're listening to that as well. Okay. So sometimes we are inadvertently passing along that pressure to our kids. Okay. So that's the high performance pitfall that we need to watch out for. So again, these are just some special circumstances that I want us to be thinking about tonight as we start to talk about how to have these hard conversations. Okay. Second is, and I mentioned illness and injury, post-illness and post-injury recovery. Okay, so we've got kids, because they're experiencing insanely high levels of chronic illness. We have kids who, in addition to academic pressures, in addition to pressures of, getting into college and being on the elite teams and all this stuff, and friends pressures and social pressures, they're dealing with issues like constant, autoimmune issues. I've got many clients who I work with who have diabetes. Okay. We've got kids who are dealing with long haul COVID symptoms. We've got, again, post-concussion syndrome. So there's a lot of illness that kids are carrying. I work with an extraordinary number of kids with pandas. My own son had pandas several years back. If you don't know what that is, I won't fully get into it right now, but it is essentially a neurological, neuropsychiatric condition that is a result of strep bacteria that attacks the brain and the gut. And there's reasons why the inner terrain becomes porous and susceptible to these things, okay? So we're dealing with a lot of kids with mold issues, Lyme disease, okay? All-time highs. I've got a kid right now, Epstein-Barr, mold issue, and she keeps getting chronic strep for which she was hospitalized. This is a real thing, okay? So you have to be aware that immune systems take a lot of time to both fight off illness, and then we have to tend to the immune system. So the immune system, it takes a lot of time to rebuild, right? And so when the immune system is compromised, the whole system really is compromised. It sets off the nervous system, which in turn compromises emotional regulation. Okay, so there are a lot of kids right now, growth hormone disruptions. I mean, the list can go on. Okay. And what we're seeing is kids who look like maybe they're behaviorally off or emotionally dysregulated, but it's secondary to the fact that their immune systems are working overtime, trying to rebuild and recover. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. So our job as the adults in their life is to get them to learn how to reconnect with their bodies and trust themselves and feel safe in their skin again. Okay, sounds easy. You know, it's easier said than done. Okay, we're also dealing with kids who go through big life transitions. Again, this isn't anything new, but just something to keep in mind, whether it be going through divorce, blended families, okay, whether it be moving. So I see a lot of families who, because of the way the economy is, you know, dad and mom, or either or both, are constantly having to change jobs, which means they have to change location, which means they have to move schools, okay? So we see that happening a lot. Loss of loved ones. Okay, these are some of the more obvious ones, but it is just something to keep in mind. Okay, that these are in fact stressors, and they contribute to weight that a child carries. Okay. Emotional weight, okay? Now, emotional weight can come from everything from social pressures, you know, everything from bullying or being excluded. A major crisis that we're dealing with now is cyberbullying, okay? This is something that for our generations, we didn't have to deal with way back when, okay? My kids laugh when I say that, way back when, right? We didn't have to deal with that. Now we do. Everything now is shared. You know, everything is posted, everything is shared. Oh, my background is blurring on the phone. Everything is shared, everything is posted, right? Kids are totally berating one another via Snapchat. Okay, so it adds a layer. Okay, let's think about things like being, you know, having your first heartbreak or friendship betrayal. And then the other major crisis that we're dealing with is increased experimentation with drugs. Okay, again, drugs were always a thing. Alcohol was always a thing. But what wasn't as big of a thing is what we're dealing with now, where, you know, there was a time when as a teenager, you know, everybody could experiment if they wanted to. And this is going to sound strange, but it was sort of safe too. Now it's not. Now it's not, when we've got, you know, things being laced with fentanyl and we've got people being poisoned at every turn. So that sort of rite of passage of experimentation is impossible anymore. And when it is, it's unfortunately and very sadly and tragically being met with fatal consequences. Right? So it's another thing that we're dealing with. I'm seeing so many kids who are vaping. Okay. And, you know, some of you out there, I don't want to go off on too many tangents here. Every single one of these words that I'm saying could be its own episode. Okay. But I'll say a word about the vaping quickly, because I do believe it's sort of, epidemic's a strong word, but we're really in trouble with it. Many people are vaping. The consequences of it, some of you out there think, well, it's vaping, it's better than smoking a cigarette. There are so many consequences of inhaling all of those chemicals and all of those toxins into a developing body. And we're just beginning to see the consequences of that. It's not healthier. It's not safer. Okay, I'm working with several teenage boys now in particular whose growth is compromised, and it can be linked directly to vaping. Okay, so it's another thing our kids are dealing with. We're also dealing with somewhat of an epidemic of overscheduled kids. Okay, again, we didn't necessarily have this years ago where we're constantly running between activities. So kids are juggling schoolwork, lessons, activities, sports, okay? And many times, because of how broken our educational system is, these kids have ridiculous amounts of homework that they're being forced to do through the night, which means now they're not sleeping, right? There's no ability to decompress. There's no downtime. Many of my clients are telling me that they're doing homework in the car while they're shoving a snack in their mouth so they can get to practice. And when they get home from practice, they're crashing. Or when they get home from practice, they still have 6 more hours of homework to do. Okay, it's a lot. It's a lot, right? And all this does is contribute to illness and disease. All this does is lead to cranky, moody, irritable kids who are so overstimulated. Okay, again, very different than the way things were when we were growing up. Then we've got those kids who I call kind of the quiet strugglers, okay? And again, maybe this was always a thing, but we've got the kids who, I'm fine, seem fine on the outside, but internally they're imploding. They're hiding away in their rooms. And again, because of these devices, you know, they tell their parents, oh yeah, I'm just on the phone talking to my friend, or I'm on the computer playing a video game. And sometimes that's true, but other times they're just hiding. You know, they're hiding because there's this undercurrent of anxiety, depression, okay, because their nervous systems are so dysregulated, okay? So, you know, we've got to help these kids to open up. It's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. The other thing we need to keep in mind is those kids whose emotional burdens manifest physically. By the way, every kid does, but you know, some of those kids who are sort of extra, they somaticize their stress, okay? Meaning these are the kids who are constantly with a stomach ache, constantly with a headache. These are the kids who are constantly complaining, my legs hurt, my back hurts, my arms hurt, my legs hurt. And parents can often, I've heard this in my own office. Parents can be like, oh, stop, you're too young to have aches and pains. Or it's just growing pains, get over it. Okay, now is that a real thing? It is. But many of these kids' bodies are bearing the burdens that they're not speaking. All of the emotions that they're pushing down and sequestering and storing, it's got to go somewhere. The body doesn't lie. The body tells the story. Okay. So their little bodies, and I say little, this is even the bigger kids, just the teenagers also, their bodies tell story. Okay. We've also got to think about kids who are extremely sensitive and empathic. Okay. And again, this was a thing years ago, but nobody really knew what to call this or how to deal with it, okay? But we hear the word empath thrown around a little bit more. Overly empathic or sensitive kids. These are kids who are so easily overwhelmed and overstimulated by their environment. Loud noises, all of the atmospheres around us. And again, in this hyperkinetic world, truthfully, I don't know anyone who isn't overstimulated from time to time. Okay, but then we've got these kids who are more sensitive. We've got these kids whose nervous systems don't turn off. Okay, We've got these kids who are so overly sensitive. They feel so deeply their own emotions and all the emotions of people around them. So we've got to keep that in mind too. Okay. Another kind of subgroup of kids that we're working with always, and again, this isn't anything new per se, but the process is a little bit different. Kids preparing to go away to college. Okay. This is huge. There is such ridiculous amount of pressure put on kids now in terms of college prep. There are middle schools that once seventh grade rolls around, they're having college guidance meetings in seventh grade. That is out of control. Totally out of control. Okay. So they're going through the most critical formative years with this massive weight on their shoulder that they don't even understand. You think they know what the hell they want to do in college? They have no idea. Most 17 and 18-year-olds, by the time they're chronologically aged, ready to go to college, still have no idea what they want to do. Take a seventh grader. What do they know? They're just trying to manage the nuances of middle school. And now you've got them sitting in college prep meetings. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so many kids are really dealing with all of this pressure to be perfect, to get the scholarship, to get into the Ivy League schools. Because as parents, and I put this on us, I do, in our efforts to think that we should do better for our kids, many people, our generation, have believed, well, my kid needs to go on to be a doctor and a lawyer and something like, professional because they should be better than us. Maybe we were blue collar workers. Guess what? The world needs the blue collar workers. Okay. The world doesn't need a surplus of doctors and lawyers and professionals just to say they got the degree. That's not built for every kid, and every kid is not built for it. But kids are feeling this pressure that they can't be just a name that profession. Okay. And again, they're experiencing that from as young as early middle school. I can't just be I've got to be a doctor, lawyer, CEO, entrepreneur. I had no idea what the word entrepreneur meant when I was in middle school, and maybe not even high school. And I hear these young kids coming in sixth grade, fifth grade. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to start my own company. I'm like, what? And I'd say it's admirable, except it's not, because these are the kids who are sitting in my office because they don't sleep at night, because they're suffering from all kinds of ailments, because they're anxious wrecks, because they're biting their fingernails off of their nail beds. So at what cost? At what cost? So this pressure cooker culture has really done a number on our kids, because kids are not allowed to be kids anymore. There's no joy. There's no unstructured creativity. Everything has to come with an outcome and a cost. Oh, you like to paint? Great. We're going to put you in a painting club and we're going to get you on a painting team and we're going to get you to have your painting in an art gallery. Can a kid just paint? Oh, you're interested in baseball? Okay. Oh, you're interested in basketball? Yeah, there's no just CYO leagues anymore. Everyone has to be on these elite teams. So we've taken the joy away and made it become something that kids have to work for. Kids should never feel like they have to work to be a child. Okay. By the way, I'm not advocating that kids shouldn't work hard. Okay. I know one of you out there is going to be like, but Dr. Christy, I want to teach my kids a good work ethic. Yeah, me too. Me too. But there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. Working hard doesn't have to mean that we martyr ourselves and we sacrifice ourselves and we eliminate and obliterate joy. Okay, so it's a very different way that I'm suggesting. Okay, so our job as parents, when we talk about why we need to have these hard conversations. Now, let's talk about what I even mean by hard conversations. At the end of the day, the reality is that I'm advocating for really solid communication between parents and children, period. No matter what the topic is, doesn't matter, okay? But I'm talking about some of these harder conversations, the ones that as parents, we are like, we squirm a little in our seat because we don't necessarily want to have these conversations. I call it like the drug, sex, and rock and roll of our times, okay? The conversations that might make us feel a little awkward because maybe our parents never talked about these things with us, and so we don't even know how to approach it with our kids, okay? So these hard conversations are necessary because in this world, in this hyperkinetic world, our kids are being left without a safe haven. They don't have a safe place to come back to, okay? They are being told to get their advice from TikTok, okay? They're asking ChatGPT to write their text to their friends. They're asking ChatGPT what they should do if they like someone and they want to ask them out. Okay, they're outsourcing everything. And all that's doing is not actually helping them. These are not actually great tools for them because it's robbing them of the capacity to figure this out. And it's also making them further detached and disconnected from a safe place, which for the most part, and I know this isn't true 100% of the time, but for the most part, it's from the family, from the parents, from us. We want to be a safe haven for our kids. Now, there are certain things that we have to do to make sure that our kids do feel safe coming to us. That's kind of what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Okay. But our job is to be a safe, unconditional, loving, non-judgmental space so that our kids can just be who they are, right? The child and adolescent years are all about experimenting with different identities, different roles, right? It's like they're trying on identities as fast as they try on different clothing, And our job isn't to steer them one way or the other. Our job is to just be a safe landing. Our job is just to be a safe landing for them to go through these experimentations. They've got to figure these things out on their own. And we've got to help them understand that they can, because they're equipped inside of them with everything they need, not because they can watch TikTok, not because they can, learn from Snapchat or learn from an influencer or what have you, but because they have everything they need right within themselves. Okay. In order for us to really, I don't want to say convince, but really support our children in feeling that way, we have to feel that way as parents, that we trust ourselves and that we feel ready and secure and prepared to be that safe landing and to be able to have these hard conversations with our kids, right? These conversations matter now more than ever because of the staggering rates of mental illness, suicide rates, physical ailments, all of it, right? Kids are carrying all the emotions, everything I've been talking about. Okay, I want to say something here about emotion. And if you worked with me before, you know me, I say this all the time because it is fact, right? That the body stores everything that is not expressed. It's in the body. Emotional stagnation manifests as physical symptoms. Okay, so if our kids are holding in, which so many of them are, just to get through the day, just because they need to be in reserves in order to get through their busy day, all of that emotion is stagnating in their body, which inevitably leads to symptoms. Okay, so it's important that we understand that, okay, that emotional stagnation, when they don't have a safe place to express, they shove it down, they suppress. And eventually, because the energetic imprint of that lives inside of them, in all of their energetic layers of their being and stored in the connective tissues of their bodies, eventually that stagnation leads to everything from illness, disease, exhaustion, explosive behaviors, language that we're like, oh my gosh, the disrespect, that we as parents say, you're being so disrespectful. It's all connected, okay? So we're going to talk about different ways tonight to support our children. And you know, this episode is applicable for kids of all ages, okay? And here and there, I'm going to tweak things for kids of younger kids, versus older kids, okay? But you also know your kid. So take what I'm saying and think about how it best applies to your child, okay? This isn't a one size fits all. You know that, okay? So it's really important that we use some of the essential, I talked about, you know, what is this rewilding wellness? What is this wild way to parenting? It's all about using the fundamentals of who we are, everything from movement and sound and breath to get a child's system ready to feel safe enough to have a conversation. Okay, how many of you out there watching, you know, your kid gets in the car at the end of the school day and you're like, how was your day? What'd you do today? What was good about your day? What did you talk about? Blah, blah, blah. And we fire in with the questions, right? Look, I'm guilty of this at times too, when I teach this, right? It's just sort of what we do as a human parent. But I'm going to tell you, if a kid has spent the whole day in flight or fight, which means their system is not feeling safe, they're so overwhelmed, they're frazzled, now they've got to do their homework in the car while shoving chips, potato chips, and a drink down their mouth so they can get to practice. They don't feel regulated or safe enough to open up and talk to you. They don't. They don't. It's too much. It's too overstimulating. It's too overwhelming. Okay. So the environment is right. So we're going to get into like, okay, how do we start having these conversations with kids? But first and foremost, you've got to understand the context that you're in. You've got to know the environment. Right after school, what you should be creating in the car is a space of quiet. Not even the radio on. No stimulation. Your kid has just been in a crowded school building all day. Most schools, I'm going to say this, are like prisons. They're not getting air. They're not getting sunlight. It is ridiculously and insanely loud. It is hot and not properly temperature controlled, or it's freezing. So many school buildings are dealing with mold. I mean, the list can go on. Okay, and all the demands and all the pressure and all the social layers and who did they sit with at lunch to, did they pass their chemistry test? So now when they get in the car, they need quiet. They need quiet. And that's hard for us as parents because we've been conditioned to believe that if we don't start talking right away, then we're disinterested or, you know, our kids are gonna think we don't care. But we've got to create that relaxed, sound environment of safety where they can just take a minute to decompress and re-regulate. Okay, that's so vital, so vital. Another sort of preparatory thing that is really important, and by the way, your children, I don't care, you could be watching this and you could have a newborn. And it is never too early to start saying this line. No topic is off limits in this home. No topic is off limits in this home. And you sort of just drop that out there like a little seed. For the little ones, you could say, that means you can talk to mommy about anything or daddy about anything. Okay. And as they get older, you get more specific. I have 2 teenage sons. And I say to them, no topic is off limits in this home. And then I get specific. You need to talk about sex, we're going to talk about sex. You need to talk about drugs, we're going to talk about drugs. Right? You need to talk about uncomfortable things happening in your body, we're going to talk about it. Because if I can speak those words with ease, I'm making them feel comfortable to do the same. If I ignore it, look the other way, dodge it, or giggle, or act stupid, sorry, but some parents do, because we don't know. It's not your fault. No one sat us down. No one told me growing up that no topic was off limits. No one told me that. I didn't know. My parents didn't talk to me. They didn't have the drug, sex, and rock and roll conversation. They didn't. I learned from the street. I grew up in the city. different time. You don't want your kids learning from TikTok, please, please. Okay, so no topic is off limits in this home. And for you as a parent watching, you need to check in with yourself. If there is a topic that feels off limits to you because it feels uncomfortable for whatever reason, that's your job. Now that's your work that you have to do. It's your place to explore it and figure out why it feels uncomfortable for you so that you can work through that, so that you can offer that safe landing space to your child. Okay, this is some of the preparatory work that we have to do. Okay, so start to tune in. And our children are our greatest teachers. They hold up mirrors for us and show us all the places that are unresolved in us, like it or not. Like it or not. So when you begin to see, oh, these kinds of topics make me leery, or I'm not comfortable going there, or, oh, as soon as it gets to this, I get a little weird. That's your time to pause and tune in and explore that within yourself so that you're not bringing any of that insecurity into never mind conversation, even into the room with your kids, because they can feel that, right? Remember, you guys, everything is energy. So you don't have to say a word. If something makes you uncomfortable, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel it. Bottom line, hands down, they're going to feel it. So you've got to check into yourself and see, okay, what topics, what areas make you uncomfortable? And then that's where your work is. Okay. If your nervous system is not regulated, you cannot possibly try to have a calm and rational conversation with your kid. Okay, now I've got so many other resources about nervous system regulation. I would love to go into it now, but I want to stay focused on this topic. But get in touch with me if you want to learn more about that. I also have a course, Parenting with Love, I highly recommend to anyone. It is a really important, powerful course that has all of my strategies and teachings around how parents need to regulate their nervous systems first in order to be ready to regulate their nervous systems with their kids. So get in touch with me if you want to find out how to get that course. Okay. So I'm also going to share with you in a few minutes for those parents who, and I'm laughing because this was me for a while, those parents who we believe, well, I got to ask a question. I'm going to give you some examples of some healthy questioning, that's specific enough yet open-ended enough to not make kids feel like it's an interrogation. Okay, so we'll be going over that in a minute. So I want to talk about some of the ways. Now, again, I'm going to preface this with, this is important for you to know as a parent. These are some of the ways that you're going to get your nervous system regulated. These are the ways that if you have a younger child, you can start teaching your younger child how to do this for themselves. And if you have older children, while you can't sit there and give direct instruction because they're not going to listen to you, you can model this. Okay, we learn best by observation. That's a scientific fact. We don't learn best by reading in books. We learn best by doing, by observing and emulating and repeating. Okay, that's why our kids' best teachers are their peers, because they're in the peer group with them. They're doing. Okay. So some of the things that are really important. So I said a few minutes ago that emotions stagnate in the body and that leads to dis-ease. Okay. By the way, what I'm about to give you is a super, a super summary. Okay. Of what I could go into more in depth, but for now, just to get you to start thinking, movement is so important for our kids. Okay. Most of you know this. I don't think I need to go into a whole thing about why, but the one aspects of movement that you may not recognize is that movement is what is necessary to get everything flowing in the system so that things are not stagnating. okay? So that we get the fascia, which is the connective tissue that stores the imprints of emotions and trauma, we could get it to be flexible and start to get it moving. So kids need movement, okay? Now, if you've got little ones and they'll do certain practices with you, everything from stretching, walking, dancing. Okay, there are certain practices also that you can seek a practitioner for, but you don't have to. When people come to me for this, I teach them how to do it themselves because we're all our own healers. I'm not a healer. Okay, if anyone tells you they're a healer, they're lying. Bottom line, okay? You heal you. Nobody else can heal you. So you should be taught, and your child should be taught, how to work with their own body in order to get energy flowing, in order to get your lymphatic system, which is your body's main waste and detoxification channel, in order to get that flowing, for your circulatory system flowing. We want things to be in flow. That basically opens up the channels and the portals so that when your children are ready to express themselves, they can. If everything is blocked and stored and stuck inside of them and they're in contraction, there's no movement. They can't express. And they likely don't even know they need to or want to at that point. Okay, so movement is really, things have to get moving in order for them to open up. They can't just open up. Okay, we've got to get them moving. Using the breath can also be really very powerful here. Breathing, there are simple breathing exercises. And again, if you're interested in what some of these specific ones are, I have other videos, I have wellness guides, I have so much on this, okay? But breathing practices. Now, again, you've got to be modeling this as a parent. But for the little ones, you can teach this. For the older ones, you just have to model it. Getting the breath moving, opening up the lungs and the chest, creating expansion, okay? This also will communicate a sense of safety to the nervous system. So the nervous system feels safe and says, oh, okay, we're not in danger. We can relax. Only then can a child begin to open up. Okay, they've got to be regulated before they can relax. Regulation must precede relaxation. I have also a video on that as well. Okay, so I also use techniques with voice, okay, for my own kids and for my clients. The voice, humming, toning. Humming opens up the vagus nerve. It loosens the throat chakra, opens up the connection between the throat and the heart, releases the vagus nerve, which is the longest cranial nerve in the body that connects the mind and body. It's the gut-brain superhighway. That is the number one thing to get twisted and contracted and contorted when we're in times of stress or trauma. So using the voice, opening of the voice can be really powerful, okay? And this could be, again, for the little ones, sing in the house. Just start singing together. Get them to open their voice, okay? Touch is another one. Sensation, touch. Sometimes, many times actually, I'm going to say, conversation doesn't even have to involve words. It can be safe and it's consensual, safe, consensual touch. Maybe just putting your hands on your child's shoulder. Maybe putting your hand on their arm. Again, you know your child, what they can tolerate. Maybe putting your hand on their head. Okay. Maybe rubbing their face. It can ground them, steady them, help them to feel safe and connected. Again, they cannot open up. And how many of you out there say to your kids, I wish you would open up to me, right? I wish you would open up. I wish you would tell me more. I wish you would talk. I wish you would talk. Well, they can't if they can't. They can't if they can't. And if they're tight and in contraction and their system doesn't feel safe, they can't. It's that simple. Okay. So again, singing, working with the throat, working with the breath, encourages expression, loosens all that blocked energy. Movement helps to get the body moving without any pressure to speak. Okay. There's also an element of silence that's so important. Okay. If you guys are on my Facebook page, check out my blog from the other day, where I talk about the healing aspect of silence. Okay, and I think it's entitled The Remedy That I Once Feared, or The Medicine That I Once Feared That Now Has Cured Me the Most. And it's an entire post about the powerful health and wellness benefits of silence. Okay, so it's really important. Another layer of storytelling. You guys know I teach in the Four Universal Healing Salves that the ancient ones taught us, which is singing, dancing, storytelling. Silence, again, singing using the voice and the breath. Dancing is movement. Silence is, as the name implies, silence and rest, time for recalibration and listening to one's instincts and intuition so a kid can learn how to trust himself. And then there's an aspect of storytelling, which for now I'll just say, sometimes kids like to hear our stories, other times they don't. You're a kid. And it also depends on the age of the kid. But sharing sharing a personal anecdote from your own childhood can sometimes build trust and just begin to open the door a little, especially if it includes one of those more taboo topics, the drug, sex, and rock and roll. Okay, builds trust, gets them to open up. Okay. So the other thing is, I just want to say quickly before I forget that when we're sort of doing that preparation work, right? Remember, we're going to consider our environment, right? Choosing a relaxed, safe environment. If it's in the car after school, silence, for instance, right? We talked about you needing to regulate your nervous system first before you can help them, right? We talked about letting them know no topic is off limits. Another piece here is drop your agenda. This is hard. I know. But if you have an agenda and you're going to your child and you're trying to open the door to conversation and you're coming at it with an agenda, well, I need to go in and talk about boom, 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 boom. And I need him to see it my way and boom, 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 boom. And maybe you're not saying that to your kid, but that's what you're thinking. You're going in there not unconditionally loving. You're going in with a condition. You're going in with an expectation. You're going in with the hope for an outcome. That is an agenda. Drop it. This isn't about you. It's about them. It's what they want to talk about, not what you want to talk about. As much as this is a hard pill to swallow, and certainly was for me early on in my parenting journey, our kids don't belong to us. They've come through us, but they don't belong to us. They're their own people. I get that when they're little, we need to sort of, micromanage them. But the rewilding way is about care without control. And so many of us learned because of the way in which we were parented that caring and control are synonymous. They're not the same things. So when we go in with an agenda, we're attempting to control the situation. I want to talk about this. We need to talk about this. Blah, 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 blah. We've got an agenda. And majority of the time, that shuts our kids right down. Shuts them right down. Because you're not leaving space for them and what they want and what's important to them. It's just all about you. All about you. And my own children have said that to me in the past. Mom, it's not about you. And it was a little bit of I needed, oh, right, this isn't about me. It's not about you. And if it is about you, again, that's where your inner work becomes. Never should be about you. Never should be what makes you comfortable, what you want. It's about them. It's about them. Okay. So when we start to talk about, I'm going to go over really quickly now some aspects of the actual art of communication itself. Okay. And some of these are going to just sound like just a difference in semantics, just difference in word, and some of them are, but the word choice means everything. Words carry energy. Okay. So something that I hear parents do a lot, and this is something I used to do, is like, you always do this and this and this. Okay. Instead of the you always, how about we switch to I noticed that, right? I noticed that. Or can you help me understand why you did blah, 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 blah. Okay. Again, sounds subtle. It is a major change. Okay, it is a major change. You always do blah, 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 blah. That is accusatory and it makes them shut down. And you always get on your phone. You always do these things. You always, 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 always. That is accusatory. You're also sort of pinning them into a narrative. It's blaming. It's shaming. Shuts them right down. Okay. Help me understand why. Game changer. I noticed that you blah, 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 right? I noticed that you've been quiet lately. Can you help me understand what's going on in your world? I've done this before too with one of my sons is notorious for leaving his garbage in his room. He's not even supposed to bring food in his room, but sometimes I have to pick our battles. All I ever ask is like, clean it up, right? So it was, you always leave this in your room. You always, okay, how about, I noticed that, right? I noticed that this pail is always there in the room. Can you help me understand what's going on with that? It's softer, it's encouraging. You're not letting them off the hook. It's not passive at all. It's not passive at all. But it's not blaming, it's not shaming, it's not accusatory, and you're inviting them in to eventually make and create a solution with you. Okay, so that's a big one. Another piece here is be okay with the silence and the pauses. Okay, almost always, like I alluded to before in terms of silence, right, being one of the healing salves that we use, oftentimes the release and the opening comes after a period of quiet. It usually doesn't come with the noise. It comes from the silence. Okay, so be okay with that. You don't have to fill every moment. Okay, another piece here is to just be okay with validating feelings rather than trying to fix them. Okay, this is another big one. Okay, again, if you can check out my course, Parenting with Love, this is a huge aspect of what I cover here, is how to offer support and validation without the judgments, without the pressure, without trying to fix. Okay, without jumping in and feeling like you've got to find the solution and that you've got to fix everything and change everything because something is broken. They're not broken. Nothing is broken, right? So your job is not to fix anything. It's just to meet them with that unconditional love. Okay, so resist the urge to fix it, validate. And here's what validation looks like. When your kid says, I hate school, I had a terrible day. Okay, instead of saying, oh, why was it bad? Do I need to email the teacher? What happened? How can we fix it? No. Step one, I hear you. You really hate school. Today was a bad day. I'm going to tell you 9.5 times out of 10, that right there is enough. That's enough. Children want to be seen. They want to feel heard. They want to feel understood and validated and unconditionally loved and supported. That does it. When you jump in, what do we need to do? Do I need to call a teacher? What did you do? You must have done something wrong. Blah, 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 blah. You shut them down. You shut them down. So if you want them to come to you with these really hard conversations, the drug, sex, and rock and roll, right? Then you've got to be prepared to stop jumping in with fixing and solutions. Ultimately, they need to come up with a solution, or you're coming up with a solution together. But you as a parent should never be coming up with a solution or telling them, you need to do this and you need to do that. Okay? Moving to validating. I hate my life. It sucks. I hear you. I hear you. You're feeling like your life sucks today. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you is such an important phrase. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Another important piece is that, these kinds of conversations should not be one-offs or like special occasions. or like, oh, okay, tonight we have to have the talk. No. These kinds of conversations should really be part of everyday life. Everyday life, not just crisis moments. Everyday life. Every moment should be an opportunity. And it's not about the conversation, it's about the connection. Connect first, converse second, or later, and sometimes not at all. Sometimes it's just the connection that's needed, right? So make this a part of every day, not just these special times. Don't wait for the crisis, okay? No matter how small that your child shares or opens up, celebrate it. And I don't mean like, oh my God, I'm so happy you spoke to me. Oh my God. No, thank you for sharing. That was meaningful. I appreciate having a window into your world. And again, you're going to adjust this depending on the age of your kid. Okay. Some of the healing salves that I mentioned before, the movement, the singing, dancing, storytelling, silence, integrate those into your regular family routines. The movement practice. Maybe you're all going for a family walk after dinner. Not always practical when there's late night activities, but for those who can, it's a good option. Right? Taking a deep breath, again, modeling, show them in the everyday mundane moments that you're integrating these practices. Okay? So when you are feeling like you want to ask some questions, I want to give you some question prompts that are more helpful than others, okay? But what I would suggest doing before you ask any question, even if it's a good prompt, a good question, okay? Think about moving, think about stretching, open up. Again, you've got to regulate, get your child out. Maybe go for a walk together, maybe run around. Your little kids, go take them for a run, go to the playground, right? Do something, get them moving, get them breathing, get them to use their voice and express. Then, so I'm going to go through some of the questions that I love. These are questions I use with my own kids. Again, you're going to adjust them based on the age of your child, okay? So, and again, this is not, I'm going to just say this again, because so many of us, myself included, I'm human, make the mistake of doing this right after school. Don't do it. No questions after school. Outside of that time period, how's your heart today? Now, some of your kids are going to be like, my heart, what? Especially teenagers. My kids roll their eyes when they hear that. Well, not anymore. They used to. Now they know. They understand what it means. But you ask it anyway, and you can explain it. What's on your heart? What are you caring about today? What are what are you feeling into today? And if they say, I don't know, okay. And you may want to share something about you. What's on my heart today is, okay. And be prepared for nothing more to come after it. That's okay. Right? Some questions that I love are, what's something that you wish you could say out loud, but you haven't been able to? Gets them thinking. And some of the responses are really very eye-opening, very telling. And again, after they speak the answers, that's where you thank them for sharing and then back away. You don't need to make a whole thing unless they want to. You've opened the door. So now if they do want to, they can, and you've reminded them no topic is off limits, but you're not going to now turn that into an interrogation. Well, why is it? And why didn't you? What can we do? How can we solve this? Why? Blah, blah, blah. What? Oh, thank you for sharing. And you can feel free to share one of yours as well. Okay. Another question I love is, what do you need more of right now? And you can do this one of two ways. You can leave it open-ended, For the older kids, let's say, what do you need more of right now? Or you can add some possibilities. What do you need more of right now? Fun, space, rest, time, support, friends, food. What do you need more of right now? It's a powerful one. It's a really powerful one because ultimately that question, I love it. Actually, I'm getting chills just saying it. That one is setting the stage for them to learn how to start to ask their own selves that question throughout the day. What do I need right now? So they can meet their own needs. It's a big one. Okay. Another question is similar to the one I asked before about, if you could, what do you wish you could say out loud, but you haven't? Similarly, if you could say anything without fear of getting in trouble, what would it be? Kids typically love that because basically my kids have been like, wait, are you saying that I could say anything right now and I won't get in trouble? And I'm like, yeah, anything goes right now. Anything goes. And they love that because they think they're getting away with something. Okay, so that's a good one. Anything goes. Say anything right now. Say the thing that you think that would make me so mad. Say it. And they love it. They love it. That's another big one. Okay. Another question I like is there something that I can do? And if so, what is it? To make life a little bit lighter for you right now. By the way, my word choice here is really intentional. Notice I'm not saying to make life easier for you right now. We're not trying to make life easy for them. We need them to be prepared for a world that is hard. But is there anything I can do right now in this moment to help make life a little lighter for you? I also replace the word lighter with manageable. Okay, it lets you know you're there, but you're also giving them the choice as to whether they want to invite you in for support. And if they do, what kind of support they need. So again, that's another question that gets them thinking, what do I need? What do I need? And then they tell you, not, it looks like you're not getting this done on time, so I'm going to have to step in and do blah, 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 blah. Again, that's your agenda. You lose them. They shut down. No hard conversations are happening then. You shut the door. Right. Is there a situation or person that's making you feel heavy and weighed down right now? Another good question. Okay, so these are just a couple. I could go on and on and on. Those are just a couple of my favorites that are really effective and work pretty much with any age group. Again, with the little ones, you may have to modify the words here or there, or maybe give them some more choices. Okay. But ultimately, it lets them know that you are safe, that no matter what the conversation is, no matter what the topic is, that they can come to you. If your children cannot come to you, who can they go to? Again, TikTok? Their dumb friends? I don't mean that in a judgmental way, but come on. Their same age peers are not experts. They don't have years of wisdom. You have years of wisdom. And you love them in a way that their friends can't, for the most part, unconditionally. And if you don't, and if there's condition, that's okay too. But that's where your work is so that you can be an unconditionally loving presence for your kids to be able to come to. Okay? So these hard conversations, the drug, sex, and rock and roll of our time, okay? If they make you uncomfortable, that's first and foremost where you need to start. My kids know no matter what happens, you come to me. I don't care how awful it is. I don't care how much trouble you think you're going to be in. I don't care how big of a mistake you think it is. You come to me. Okay. But me just saying that alone is only one piece. I have to demonstrate the safety of me in these other ways that we've talked about, right? The way I approach my general conversation is going to be the way that they think I'm going to approach the hard stuff. So if I'm approaching that with shame and blame, they're not safe enough to come to me with the hard stuff. Not going to happen. If I'm coming to them with, accusations, and I'm coming to them with my agenda, it has to be this, they can't trust me. They can't trust me. So again, we're dealing with a real major crisis here with our children in ways that really do transcend anything we've ever experienced. So these hard conversations are really, really important to have, okay? And it really does begin with us. And I think I'm going to do at some point a part 2 on this, or probably I could do a part 2 through 10 on this. It's massive. It's a massive topic. Okay. And haven't even gotten to our Q&A yet. And for those of you live, we're going to get to our Q&A. For those of you watching and recording, this recording is going to end in a couple of moments. But again, this is a big topic, but I hope this has given you just a few things already to start to think about. Are you creating a safe haven in your home? Right? Have you created a space that is a true holding environment that says, I am here. I see you. I hear you. I'm listening. That's another big one. I see you. I hear you. I'm listening. I see you. I hear you. I'm listening. If that's all you say, that's enough. I see you. I hear you. I'm listening. Okay. Have you created that space for your kids? It's not ever too late. So if you're watching this and you're a parent of an older kid, it's not too late. Start now. Start immediately. If you're parents of a little, start now. When they're little, they're playing their blocks and their Legos on the floor. I see you, I hear you, I'm listening. And they scream when the Lego blocks fall down. And they say, I hate this thing. I'm so mad. And you say, you really hate this. You're so mad that it fell down. Mirror back. You're also teaching them how to name and express their emotions, how to feel safe expressing their emotions, how to feel like they don't have to shove it away. You can feel it. When we say, oh, don't be upset, you'll just build a new one, it's okay, you're totally dismissing them, totally minimizing them, and robbing them of an opportunity to feel. And as many of you have always heard me say, we've got to feel to heal. Okay, so this is some of the foundational work of how to begin to open the door to have these really hard conversations with our children. Okay, again, reach out to me with any questions. Okay, Christy@ChristyVanacor.com. Email me. Okay, also, this is going to be coming on my website soon, but I have wellness guides on various topics, one of which is this topic, how to connect with our kids and have these hard conversations. It's kind of a checklist, a little quick and dirty guide that you can keep with you that summarizes all of this. Those are available. My Parenting with Love course is available. Get in touch with me if you'd like to learn how to access all of these offerings. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one session at any time, please do let me know. I've been doing this work for almost 3 decades now. And most importantly, I do this work every single day because I'm a mom. Okay? It takes a village. We are not meant to do this alone. So I'm so glad that you're a part of my community. We're in this together. Thank you so much for watching this. Reach out with any questions, comments, feedback, concerns. Hope to see you next week on Rewilding Wellness. Hope that you'll get to join us live. We're going to start our Q&A now. For the rest of you, have a beautiful evening. Thank you for joining.